Today's show is all about preparing for the future, who to keep, and positions to target in the 2026 draft. Buckle up, ladies and gentlemen. It's off-season time.
You are Locked On Texans, your daily podcast on the Houston Texans. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Battle Red Nation, from H-Town to your town. Today's episode and every episode of the Locked On Texans podcast is for Texan fans all around. Fun show lined up today as we dive into a peek into the future, right? It's time to start for the 2026 offseason. What does that look like for Houston? I'm going to give my 2026 draft board. You may not like where I'm going with this. It's all based on logic and how I think Houston should attack free agency, but I think if Houston follows this plan, we could see for an improved unit on both sides of the ball, offense and defense. I'm also going to look at what players should Houston bring back. Closing out today's show, Nick Caserio's biggest wins and misses of the 2025 season. Did he do enough to give this team everything that they needed, whether it be up front, outside, on the defense, the back end? Let's look at the wins and misses from Nick Caserio. Some of y'all may be shocked at some of the things that I say, considering some of my criticism of Caserio in the past. However, can't do this show without my everydayers from the Himalayas, so shout out to you guys. And I am, remember, your Texas Credential Media member and football analyst, John Hickman. I'm going to start right where we need to. What players should Houston bring back? Before we get into any conversations about potential free agents from around the league, it's important to know Houston's MO and where they currently stand. And also know, with that, Houston will prioritize and take care of their players in-house first. Houston, right now, here's a need to know, currently has a negative $6.6 million effective salary cap space entering the 2026 offseason, which ranks them 21st per over the cap. The Texans could move on from Joe Mixon and Mario Edwards. That will save them roughly about $12.5 million to get into the green, to operate in the green this offseason. Houston could free up another $30 million in salary cap by restructuring deals for Derek Stingley, Nico Collins, and others. What current free agent should Houston target to bring back? That is the question. Number one for me, Ed Ingram. I was against the move last season. I'm for it now. We look at Ed Ingram and the potential money. That deal would range in between, I believe, $8 million to $10 million APY. Will likely be a 2 to 3 year contract, given how Nick Caserio has structured a lot of the extensions in Houston. And honestly, I'm leaning towards a 3-year contract. All major players for Houston have 3-year contractual windows. Nico Collins, Derek Stingley, even Joe Mixon, when he got traded to Houston, they all received 3-year extensions. I can see Ingram landing in that 3-year extension group with the Tier 1 players for Houston and not the Tier 2 players, which includes players like Tim Settle, Mario Edwards, and Danico Autry. They are all on 2-year deals, simply based on value for dollars, right? Before we even get to the dollars, let's just look at his value on the field. The most reliable run blocker for Houston all season. The most reliable. And he had new center after new center, new right tackle after new right tackle. He was a staple on that right side, and I think throughout the year, he's gotten a lot better, obviously, and I think the numbers supported as well. But he gave Houston what they needed. He did. And are you going to get better if you go out there and search for a free agent? And if you do get better, will that cost you more? Given the fact that Houston right now is operating with not a lot of money going into this offseason. So I think getting the deal done with an in-house player such as Ingram will work out. Now, when we look at the money-wise, I mean, this keeps him as an established starter, but it doesn't reach the elite guard money, which is around, like 17, 18, 20 million. This gives Houston flexibility to be able to spend a little bit more in other places in free agency or having someone that I think the staff likes and is really one of the redemption stories and redemption players under Cole Popovich. So for Houston, locking him up before free agency could prevent losing him or overpaying him on the open market. Number two, another player that I really do like, Tim Settle. He's going to be 29 when the season starts. Compared to a Sheldon Rankins, Foley Fadakowski, they will both be 30 plus. Settle and Tommy T would be great vets for a young DT from the 2026 draft. I'm kind of foreshadowing where I'm going for the draft introduction, right? I know he missed the remainder of the 2025 season after requiring surgery for a foot injury suffered against the Indianapolis Colts. However, Settle is really liked by the coaching staff and his group. I think his only competition, really, for me, in my opinion, for guys to bring back is Sheldon Rankins. Rankins finished the year with 5 sacks, 44 pressures. Remember, last offseason, he let us know he wanted to return back to Houston. He wanted to be back in Houston. And I bet he'd want to stay with D'Amico Ryans and Coach Ron Wright and Matt Burke. So, and I think for Rankins, why it makes sense for him to stay in Houston, I'll look at one of those tier 2 contracts, short term, lower base salary between 2 to 4 million. This gives flexibility for Houston, and it also reduces any risk if production declines because of age. You can add those incentives. This team loves taking care of their guys, and an incentivized contract will be the way to do that. Low risk, high reward type of contracts. I also wonder how Houston and the coaching staff feels about Naquan Jones. Guys, he played well for Houston in his role once he was picked up, had 6 defensive stops in 6 games, averaged 26% of the defensive snaps shared in the regular season. That went up in the playoffs to 33. So obviously he's a player that Houston likes and trusts. D'Amico has shown us if he trusts you, you will play more. You will do more. Here's another player that I really like for Houston. And I'm not sure what his money will look like on an open market, but let me lay this out for you guys. Houston is in a championship window right now, right? Why? The players that they've been able to count on, they got some skin in the game, or they're just outright dogs. Danielle Hunter, skin in the game, outright dog. Will Anderson, dog. And now in year 3, skin in the game. Aziz, skin in the game, dog. Jalen Petrie, skin in the game, dog. Derek Stingley, Kamari Lassiter. Lassiter's going into his 3rd year. Stingley's going into his 4th year, but dog, skin in the game. Like, experience and playmaking ability is everywhere on this defense. Caleb Bullock, dog. EJ Speed is the skin in the game player that you can trust with a second unit. Rotational linebacker that plays some good football for the Houston Texans. And the question as to why would you bring him back? Why wouldn't you draft another young linebacker? Okay, well, EJ Speed came in and had more opportunities than Christian Harris this year. So I think for the defense and what they ask of their linebackers, it feels like youth without understanding the schematics of the defense may not get you on the field. A vet with that amount of knowledge and his playmaking ability, especially downhill, will get you on the field. EJ Speed matches what Houston looks for from their linebackers. And I think he's the guy to go with. I think if they can work it out, and if EJ Speed wants to be here, so maybe takes a team-friendly deal to stay in Houston. This is one of the greatest cities, one of the greatest cities in the world. He may want to just stay in Houston and they can work it out. He's a player that I look at and I say, wow, he keeps that window open. If a player goes down in front of him, can you trust him to play good football? And the answer to that question, in my opinion, is yes. You absolutely can. That doesn't negate Houston from drafting a linebacker maybe later in the draft, but he gives you that dependability in the middle of that defense where you can move forward and say, well, don't worry about it. We got EJ Speed. That's what Houston needs to keep this championship window from the defensive perspective open. Now, let's dive into the 2026 draft board introduction conversation. Again, some of you guys may not like how I lead it off, but understand this. The biggest needs for Houston needs to be addressed in free agency, not in the draft. Stick around for today's show. The big game is almost here. We are officially 2 weeks away. There's no better way to stay locked in into every moment than with Prize Picks, the daily fantasy app where it always feels good to be right. With the football season coming down to its final stretch, now is the perfect time to close it out strong. Prize Picks makes watching the game even more exciting by letting you build simple lineups around player projections. No draft, no waiting, just football action all the way through. The playoffs into the Super Bowl, which is where we'll be in 2 weeks. It's a great way to keep playing fantasy football even after season-long leagues are finished. One of my favorite features, the early payout, which lets you cash out if a player gets off to a hot start. The new social media feed makes it fun to follow friends, share lineups, and get inspiration from other players. Download the Prospect app today and use code Locked On NFL to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. Again, that's code Locked On NFL for $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. Prospects is good to be right. And also, ladies and gentlemen, let's pivot over to Robinhood. What if sports were traded like markets? Now you can put your sports IQ to work in real time with Robinhood prediction markets. It's not you against the house. It's not that. No, it's you participating in a live market. You can buy or sell your positions live all game long. Use your sports knowledge in moments that matter the most. Robinhood prediction markets changes the game. It's people move the action. So when momentum shifts, you can move with it. I always knew the game. Now I have a dynamic way to apply my knowledge. Now I can actually take part live in a market powered by people. You're no longer just a spectator, play by play. Now you decide. Trade every play with Robinhood, now available across the U.S. Download the Robinhood app now to begin. Futures and cleared swaps trading involves significant risk. It is not appropriate for everyone. Event contracts are powered by Robinhood Derivatives, LLC, a registered futures commission merchant and swap firm. Continuing with today's conversation, it's going to be fun. The next part of this show will probably get some people up in arms, but tell me how you feel about it in the comments. And also, Texan fans, I want to thank you for making Locked On Texans your first listen of the day and making Locked On the #1 sports podcast network. If you haven't already, go check out our new Everyday Club. Access to an ad-free audio feed for Locked On Texans compatible with Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and every major podcasting app. Also, this is a personal invite from me to you to the members-only Locked On Everyday Discord Club server, which includes a group chat just for listeners of the show. So visit LockedOnTexans.Supercast. Again, LockedOnTexans.Supercast, or tap the link in the show notes to learn more. Continuing with today's conversation, here are my biggest draft needs for the Texans. At #1, wide receiver. And wide receiver and D tackle flip 1A. However you want to look at it, I think those should be the first two positions taken off the board. Coming in at #3, hot running back. #4, tight end. #5, cornerback 3, DB all together, whether it's a safety or cornerback 3. Listen, I don't think Houston could afford moving forward with a Tremont Smith. And also, I don't know what the future is going to look like for Jalen Reed. Suffered 2 injuries. Jimmy Ward's been up and on. We don't know what's going on with Jimmy Ward. And also, just looking at the unit altogether. There needs to be more talent in both rooms. Top heavy, Kellen Bullock, Derek Stingley, Kamari Lassiter, great. You can count on those guys. What follows after that, Houston needs to invest in. #6, finalizing it out, linebacker. Why do I feel this way? Well, a lot of you guys want to say, let's go offensive lineman #1, let's go guard, let's go tackle. I've seen the Caden Proctor from Alabama. Personally, I think he's going to be better at guard, given his stature and given some of the things that I like and dislike about tackles moving forward in the NFL. So y'all want the offensive lineman taken first. Listen to me when I say this. There are some free agents in this year's cycle I really like for Houston up front. I don't think Houston needs to waste their time drafting another offensive lineman, especially not early, considering since 2021, Houston has drafted 6 offensive linemen. None but one, Ariante Ursary, and that's under Cole Popovich, have been able to say they are established, whether that is established at a position or just play majority of their snaps throughout. None. But Ursary is the only bright spot moving forward that you can absolutely say without a shadow of a doubt he's going to be at some point a Pro Bowl player. it's time for Houston to get established players up front. Cole Popovich is very good at his job. It doesn't mean Houston has to make it harder on him. Case in point, Chicago went and got Joe Thuney and Jonah Jackson last offseason for their young quarterback and Caleb Williams. I think that played out well for them. And that may have played out well for them with the idea of being able to protect the quarterback. But look at how well Chicago has been able to run the ball this season. That's something to look forward to, right? Houston being able to run the ball. Chicago running the ball for 145 yards this season. That is what you should want from your Houston Texans. How did Chicago do it? They went and got real deal dudes with skin in the game that you can count on. That's what Houston needs moving forward. It isn't just another young offensive lineman. Now, if they want to address it late, they can. But hey, at right tackle, you got Titus, you got Blake. At left tackle, you got Erstring holding it down. Houston, maybe they'll see what they do with Trent Brown moving forward to keep Brown at right tackle. But then that'll force Titus Howard back at left guard. And Houston needs maulers on the inside. They desperately need to upgrade left guard and center. I don't think Titus Howard should be playing guard no more. I think he should be at tackle. They can go upgrade that position in free agency. Throughout the week, I'll go into my free agent guys that I like the most. Now, each of those positions, running back, wide receiver, D tackle, each of those positions in some way or another, Houston needs in order to extend their window, or they just need to be flat out better at. Keep in mind, Houston has 4 top 100 picks. That's important. I will dive into the draft discussions this week and deep dive positions of players who I like. Why am I going with those first 2 options? And I'm really split in between the two because both are needed. But when I look at wide receiver, guys, the unit just wasn't good enough. It was not enough. For 17 regular season games going into the playoffs, they were not enough, considering how the season ended. There was no Nico Collins in that last game. It was Jaden Higgins, and that's it. We are super excited for Tank Dell's return. I'm one of those people. But let's be realistic about the production of the group without him. Without Tank Dell, the production of the group at times was lackluster. You got Christian Kirk for 15 minutes. That's it for the season. Hutch was good in spots and moments, but it didn't translate to over 500 yards on the year. Jalen Noel, we like him a lot, didn't translate to 17 games of production. So without Tank Dell, it wasn't enough. With Tank Dell, it'd be better, but what about the other guys in the room? He is not going to drag their unit by himself in his return. Just not happening. And also, we need to be realistic about his injury. It'll be unfair to that young man to expect for him to be all world after the injury. And quite frankly, he got shot, returned from that, and then the injury. He's going to need time physically and mentally to get back into football shape. For D tackle, it's simple. Danielle Hunter's contract is up after this season, next season. So I think it'd be smart to pair a young, explosive D tackle with Hunter, with Anderson, right, as well, and also pairing that young D tackle with Anderson for the future. Why is that important? The best unit for this football team is the D front. The best unit is the defense. The best position group and group altogether is the D front. You add a young, great D tackle with Will Anderson in his future that keeps the best unit alive and that keeps the driving force going. Now, when I look at running back, I like this year's free agent class of running backs. I really do. If Houston misses on one of those running backs, like if they can't get him, and a lot of people want Breece Hall, I just think Tennessee got a lot of money. I can see him going to Tennessee. I can see that happening. And I think he's going to want his money, right? I like Tyler Algier from Atlanta. I like a few guys in this running back free agent class. But if Houston misses, or if they get one, it doesn't mean they can't upgrade through the draft. I think we'll see some coaching changes soon. I wonder where they'll leave Danny Baird. Regardless of the wide receiver room, the running back unit needed more. Chubb played his role very well for Houston, but his snaps started to decline throughout the season. Woody Marks was really good for Houston, but I think he best fits a RB2 role, a running back that can do it all, pass block out of the backfield, run the ball in between the tackles well, can run the ball outside of the tackles well. And also, I don't think Houston used him to exploit defenses in the passing game enough, but he was good when he got the opportunities in the passing game. Now you look at Dare, Jawar Jordan, British Brooks. That's the rotation for RB3. Houston needs to upgrade an RB1. That's just the fact. Now, when we return, when I come back, I'll look at the rest of my draft position needs and Caserio's biggest wins and misses of the 2025 season. If you've ever hired someone who looked good on paper but wasn't the right fit, you know how important that is. When you want candidates who truly match what you're looking for, trust Indeed sponsored jobs. If you're hiring, Indeed is all you need. Stop struggling to get your job post seen on other sites. Indeed sponsored jobs put your post at the top of the page and help you reach the right candidates faster. According to Indeed data, sponsored jobs posted directly on Indeed are 90% more likely to report a hire than non-sponsored jobs. Non-sponsored jobs boost your post to the people who are the best fit for your role, and that makes a real difference. So spend more time interviewing candidates who check all of the boxes with less stress, less time, and more results using Indeed sponsored jobs. Listeners of this show get a $75 sponsored job credit to help give your job the premium placement it deserves at Indeed.com/locked on NFL. Just go to Indeed.com/locked on NFL right now and support the show by saying you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Hiring, do it the right way with Indeed. Closing out today's episode, I'm going to dive into Nick Caserio's biggest wins and misses of 2025. Some of it may shock you guys, but I can't lie. He's done some good things. Closing it out, my biggest draft needs. I look at tight end. I like the kid from U of H, Tanner Kozel. Listen, this team has to be better in the red zone, right? 6'7". 6'7". He could be that guy. He could be that guy. Amazing wingspan, great catch radius, and he has good NFL feet in college. So you look at, some of those throws that maybe closer to the sideline, right? Or the back end of the red zone. He can come down with some of those passes and keep his foot in bounds. I think he runs good routes. And hey, listen, some of the critique may be about him not being a polished blocking tight end, or his blocking ability isn't polished. I think Houston can be able to coach that up. Look at Dalton Schultz 2024. Look at Dalton Schultz 2025. There's a much bigger difference in blocking in the 2 years. I look at the cornerback 3 role, DB role. Again, like Houston just got to get a couple of guys in there. They got to get some guys in there that can make plays. They got to get some guys in there that they can trust on the back end of their defense. And Tremont Smith, Miles Bryant, some of those guys' time may be coming to an end. They got to upgrade. Linebacker would be where I would target last, because this is a defensive team. And if you guys peep, my first 3 out of the 4 picks, Houston has 4 top 100 picks. Offense receiver, defense D tackle, running back, tight end. Houston has to exert resources to the offensive side of the ball. And they can do that with their first 4 picks of the season. Now, pivoting over to Nick Caserio and his biggest wins and misses. Let me just say this, and I'm going to summarize it like this. Nick Caserio, in all his faults, in my opinion, recognize that we got to keep this defense going. This is my defensive-minded head coach. He's built this defense. I have to make sure that he has everything that he needs. And so when I look at 2025, I'm going to say that Nick Caserio, I think, did a good job of keeping the defense intact, keeping that championship window, open for putting resources on the defensive side of the ball. I'm looking at EJ Speed, but the job that he did to get some of those D tackles back. Sheldon Rankins invested in Tommy Togiai. Tim Settle. Like those guys played such a major role in Houston's defense being tops in the NFL, especially when they go on that game win streak where Tommy Togiai scores a defensive touchdown, Sheldon Rankins scores twice. But you also got to look at the job that they did against teams like Indianapolis, stopping that running offense. The Jaguars, with Travis Etienne was able to do pre and post Texans. You also look at what they did in terms of being able to get after the quarterback. Like they played a major role against Buffalo. The D tackle unit played a major role against Kansas City, against the Colts. Right? They played major roles, and I think Nick Caserio did a good job there. Now, my biggest critique of him and his biggest miss was just he failed the offense. And he did it by just like Cam Robinson just never panned out. Right? That didn't pan out. Lincoln Thompson never panned out. Like on one side of the ball, you have a redemption story, and then Ingram on the other side of the ball, you just have one of those cases where it's just not good enough in Lincoln Thompson, regardless of the coaching. One of, if not his biggest miss, kind of came in a form of not being able to replace Diggs, Mixon, and protecting them and Tank Dell. So like, and the resources went their way. Like they traded. I mean, they didn't trade up for, but excuse me. They tried that with Jalen Noel, I think, but what the offense asked of him, what the offense asked of his receivers, maybe he's not up to speed yet for the NFL, which is why we may have saw him in and out. Maybe didn't see him a lot, maybe because of what Nick Kelly was asking of Ben McDaniels to do. Maybe Ben McDaniels was asking more of Jalen Noel, and maybe he wasn't ready yet. But even if we don't look at the draft class, we look at Justin Watson, we look at Braxton Berrios, we look at trading John Mechie. John Mechie has rapport with your quarterback room here. This is going into a rough year with another first-time inexperienced play caller. Justin Watson didn't work out at all. Braxton Berrios didn't work out at all. So overall, I look at Nick Caserio just not getting the right guys in the building to replace Mixon, Tank, Diggs. He got guys in the building. Right? Again, Jalen Noel, all intents and purposes, like when we had this conversation, even in college, he got better every year. His first 1 or 2 years was not great. It didn't blow nobody away, but he's continued to get better. That could very well just be his career in the NFL. And if down the line we're looking at it like, wow, Jalen Noel is a great wide receiver 3. Jalen Noel is a great wide receiver 4. Like you look up one year and he has 500 yards, 4 touchdowns on a successful offense. That could happen. And also, he's a hell of a punt returner. He needs to get better. But for this year, I would count Jalen Noel as a miss. And a large part of that is because they went with another inexperienced play caller in Nick Caley. Now, in my opinion, he is not a miss. I think Nick Caley is going to be good for Houston. But when you have that young of an inexperienced play caller, what do you have to do? All right, well, we got Higgins. Higgins is going to be good money. But I need to go out there and invest into a guy that I know and I can count on to be worth it for 17 games. And he tried. And this is where one of the biggest misses come in at, trading for Christian Kirk. It just didn't work out. It just didn't work out. Like week in, week out, we were, looking to see maybe more from Christian Kirk. What will Christian Kirk do? Will this be the week? Depending on the defense the Texans would play, there would be a favorable matchup there for Kirk. And maybe you think to yourself, okay, this will be the week. And he finished the year averaging 8.5 yards per catch, 239 yards, 1 TD. I think that was against Buffalo, 28 catches. So the room altogether wasn't enough. The room never had a true wide receiver 2 for half of the season. The second half of the year, Higgins just ascended. And a lot of that was due to the expectation versus the production of Christian Kirk. The biggest needs The biggest misses and wins from Caserio couldn't be further apart, right? That being said, I give Caserio a B minus for his job this year. I think he did some great things. When players start to break down, Nick Caserio was extremely active, proactive sometimes, of getting players in the building that can come in and play right away, plug and play guys. Now, those plug and play guys, defensive side of the ball, didn't trade for a running back, didn't assess the running back room good enough. Most of his wins on the defensive side of the ball. I think he's going to stay for another year. But it ain't been all bad under Caserio, and this would be a pivotal offseason for him to get this team to a championship perspective from the offensive side of the ball, for the offensive side of the ball. Thank you for watching today's episode, listening. Please be sure to subscribe, like, and comment on YouTube. Wherever you listen to your podcast, follow me on Twitter at John_Hickman12. Also on Instagram at Some Sports Guy. Until next time, ladies and gents, Texas fans across the nation, peace.